racing, bogey lead.
Coming up on the Catching Pen, the most exciting race so far in 2004. The Gardens gets the green light, and Hilton Donaldson profiles leading South Australian mentor, Laurie Cahalan.
There were these two young boys, Terry and myself, coming out there and cleaning up all the seasoned dog people. It was, yeah, you could feel the animosity. What are these kids doing out here? So yeah, that blooded us into the business.
And Laurie Cahalan is a trainer who has been one of the best with a collar and lead for nearly 50 years, and here's our feature story this week on the Catching Pen.
Started with Tura Lewis.
Yep, 1957 we bought the dog from well-known coursing identity Bub Williams, and we paid £5 for the dog, and he was 18 months old. That included the lead, the muzzle, the rug and the freight down from Murray Bridge. So that started us into the greyhound industry.
With your brother Terry, and I read here,
my brother Terry.
October 5, 1957, raced away to clear lead on settling down, but caught by Oakley Blue at home turn, but fought on brilliantly to score his major triumph as a puppy.
Yes, that's right. That was a champion puppy stakes, and for that we earned the princely sum of £14.10, which was a lot of money. It would take you long trips in a bus in those days. So yeah, he was a very good dog. He raced about the same time as Tulloch, and they called him the Tulloch of the greyhound racing at one stage because he won a lot of races. And yeah, there were these two young boys, Terry and myself, coming out there and cleaning up all the seasoned dog people. It was, yeah, you could feel the animosity. What are these kids doing out here? So yeah, that blooded us into the business.
So where did your interest stem from?
Well, Dad was born in the country, and he always, you know, he always had coursing dogs and that. And then when we got into the track racing, I don't know how it actually came about, but a friend of ours said, I know a bloke that breeds dogs, and it was Bub Williams, and she rang him up and said, look, I'll give him one for £5. So down it came, and he was a good dog.
Laurie's extensive knowledge of treating greyhounds was put into print.
Oh, 1977 that was. I used to do a bit of work for Rigby's, and June White wrote a book on training greyhounds, and they asked me to look at it, and I had a look, and I said, yeah, look, that's all right, but what people really want to know is how to fix them up when they break down and go wrong. And you know, there are a lot of symptoms that you can pick up, and over the period you talk to vets and you gather a bit of information. So one day I sat down and I wrote all the things that I think that go wrong. I mean, there's things with their kidneys and their liver and their toes, and so yeah, you pick it down. So I put it in a book, and we sold 30,000 copies through Rigby's. It's been very popular, and there's still people now come up to me at the track and say, oh, you haven't got any more of those books?
Is it due for re-release?
Oh, I'd like to think so, yeah. I mean, with DVDs and that now, I'm not sure how the written word goes, but I've got something in the pipeline that I might do later on.
You're a great researcher. You've got a vast library that you've written this book from.
Yeah, oh, yes, you've got to quantify what you say, and you need to have backup to say, look, if this is what you do, then you need to back that up. So you really need that.
Feeding's very important, but also the veterinary side of it as well. I notice you can take your own blood.
Yeah, I do my own blood counts. If a dog needs it, I mean, it only quantifies what your eyes should tell you. I mean, if a dog doesn't look right, then you know it doesn't look right. And if you do his PCV and that, you get an idea that all he is, he's either dehydrated or he's over the top or he needs a spell. So yeah, I do that. I do my own urinalysis, and yeah, it's just a hobby that you want to research more.
One of the best dogs to come out of Tallack Kennels was Jazeera in the early 90s.
A friend of mine who's a good friend, Gary Weston, he's been in greyhound racing since about 1956 as well. We've been very, very close for a long period of time, and he had a good dog called not Mr. Muscle, I forget the name of it now, but I met him there, and we've been sharing dogs ever since, you know. And I was over in the West, I think, and he said, oh, I've got a couple of pups here, you know, do you want one? So he said, pick out which one it was, and it was a dog called Jazeera. He was only 11 or 12 months old at the time, so they sent him over on the plane. He was dirty and that, but gee, he developed into a good, hard chasing dog. He was, you know, he was 3 or 4 lengths short of a really good dog, because there was always better dogs around than him, but he always put in 100%. He was a good dog.
You took him over for the Australian Cup one time, and I think there's a pretty interesting story about the heats that night.
Yeah, well, I drove over there on the Saturday, and the heats were on the Tuesday, and I was in heat 5 or something, and a bloke said to me, he said, you're wasting your time. He said, this dog won a heat of the Melbourne Cup the year before, and this dog's a really good dog at Olympic Park, and there was 5 in my heat. Some of them only had 2 and 3, and I was in heat 9, I think. Well, he finished up, he ran 30 seconds at Olympic Park that night, which was, you know, a very good time. And there was $1,000 to whoever ran the fastest heat. Well, you know, I think there was about 30 heats. Well, up to about 25, he was still the quickest, and then along came True to Do, and she ran the quickest.
Knocked off by a South
Australian, yeah. Well, but that was a good night. I mean, I didn't think he'd, you know. So I stayed there another week, and he got to the semi-finals, and he didn't go on any further. But he was a very good, hard-chasing dog. And when he retired, Gary Weston took him back in Western Australia, and I think he died at the age of about 12 or 14, but Gary looked after him all that time. So yeah, and he was good to us all, that dog.
What's your theory to getting a good dog? Is it to pay good money for a tried greyhound, or bring one up from...
I've really never had one. Most of the dogs I get are dogs from other trainers in Melbourne and Perth and that. Like Neville King was very good. He would send a dog over. And prior to Neville, I used to get a few dogs from the Smiths of Tempix fame, when they were in full flight with Tempix and Tempix Image and that. All their second stringers would come over here, and we would win good races. I had a good dog called Cure Socks, which they sold back to Sydney, and that won a lot of races. Pete's Twin, and yeah, I had a lot of their dogs. They were very good dogs.
Next week, Laurie talks of his greatest achievement in the sport.
Like the thrill of that, from a dog that was going to struggle to leave the breaking yards, and to run second to Rapid Journey in the National Sprint. It's what dreams are made of.
Which years?
In 1997, Beulah Boy entered Laurie Cahalan's Tallaght Kennels. The son of Zazayam and Jablanka gave Laurie his greatest moment in the sport, although at times he had Laurie scratching his head.
Well, I think it's what dreams are made of, Hilton, things like that. I got him over from Victoria, and I didn't, from what I can gather, the breaker said, look, he's no good, get rid of him, you know. So this friend of mine, he said, can you have a go with him? And he must have caught me on a light moment. So I said, all right. And he turned out a pretty fair dog, not being brilliant at all, but a fair, hard-chasing dog. And he won a few races here, and I said, look, really, he should go back now and see how he goes. And so they took him back, and he must have fretted. So he sent him back to me, and he went on right through, and he won a lot of races. I never kept a record, but he won a lot of races. So then one day he dropped a back muscle, and I thought, well, he's finished now. So I took him up to Chris Arnold, and he said, it's not that bad. He said, I can stitch him up. So we stitched him up, and I gave him to Cosy, Lepresto and Rose. I said, look, he needs rehabilitation, and they did a terrific job. And I brought him back, and not had anything in mind for him, you know, and I started putting him over the short, and that was good. He was going all right. I think he won one race. And then I've always had a desire to win the Waterloo Cup, because, you know, when we were young, we used to go to all the open coursings, and the Waterloo Cup was the race that I always wanted to win. So I thought, I'll take him out and I'll let him try behind the drag lure. Well, the Waterloo Cup, I think it was over 2 days, a 32 dog stake, and he got run out first course. I was shattered. I couldn't believe 2 out he could get beaten. So I put him in the Constellation, and he got beaten by more again. And I went home and I thought, oh, what am I going to do with him? So anyway, the Nationals came up, National Sprint, where I thought he was a top grade dog, so I put him in. And in his heat he ran third, and he just qualified by the barest of margin. But in the final, the rain came down, and he was a grinder, and all the speedsters sort of got glue on their legs on the corner, and he just overpowered them. So I was off to Western Australia. It's what dreams are made of.
John Wish giving chase. Then came Beulah Boy. Larrica McLaren's not in the race with Falcon. It's MDB a length in front. Brand John Wish is trying to peg her back, and out wide Beulah Boy. Beulah Boy over the top. Beulah Boy wins. Beulah Boy from MDB.
And Gary Weston, my good mate in Perth, he had Reggie-Mite. So I rang him up and said, Gary, we're coming to get you. And that's what happened. I went over there, and I was there a week. And on the Wednesday leading up to the race, he cut his forearm. So I put a bandage on that, and I walked him and walked him and walked him, and I thought, well, if I can get through the vet, I'm happy as Larry. So I got through the vet. The vet was in a hurry that night. He didn't see the nick that was there. It was quite a substantial nick. And, I mean, probably would have required 3 or 4 stitches. So he patched up, and I got through. I thought, oh, well, that's good. I can enjoy myself now, And then in the final, there was Hot Shot, there was Rapid Journey, there was Reggie-Mite, there was Faithful Hawk. It was a very, very good field.
The National Championship of Australia, they're ready, racing Reggie-Mite. It bumped with Hot Shot out of the start. Els Queen goes straight to the front. Faithful Hawk up on the inside. Hot Shot now got between them. Over on the fence, Beulah Boy out wide of myself. Moved forward. Reggie-Mite's in trouble. Cam run outside of it, and then Rapid Journey well back. Off the back, and Faithful Hawk, the Queenslander, out by 2. Hot Shot got to second, running on Beulah Boy. Then came Els Queen, followed by Rapid Journey, getting through from Reggie-Mite as Faithful Hawk in front. Coming after it, Rapid Journey. It's sprinting home brilliantly. Rapid Journey, it hit the front, and Rapid Journey won the national sprint. Second, Beulah Boy. Third, Faithful Hawk. And I think Reggie-Mite.
Faithful Hawk had enough. Hot Shot had enough, and he just kept grinding, and he hit the front, and Rapid Journey's just put up an enormous run to finish up beating him by a length. But like the thrill of that, from a dog that was going to struggle to leave the breaking yards and to run second to Rapid Journey in the national sprint. That's what dreams are made of. And the people that owned him, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. So, yeah, that was a very big thrill.
A youngster you've got high hopes for needs a trial, so let's go and do that. Well, Laurie, where have you taken us?
This is the OTBA trial track adjacent to the Adelaide Airport. It's been here for 30 years, and this is where we condition our dogs prior to them going to the track and hand slip them during the week if they require it. It's maintained by members of the OTBA. It's a very good facility. We need to actually keep it in good condition. It's very good.
Do the planes ever worry the dogs?
No, they just get in there. They know that they can go down the end and turn around and come back again. No, they enjoy it.
Laurie, how far did he go?
He went up 1,600 metres, he did, at his own pace. It's a good head out for them.
Besides the thorough workout the greyhounds get on the straight track, Laurie utilises Henley Beach to freshen and rejuvenate his dogs. Was there ever a stage you considered going full-time into the game?
Oh, not really. No, I just think the economics of it for South Australia, the numbers wouldn't add up. And even in Victoria, then you've got to be really big, and 7 days a week. It's very hard on your family at the end. So no, very happy with what I've done.
Hilton Donaldson with Laurie Cahalan there, and a nice story.
I can tell you,
yes,
half an hour after last week's show, he got a phone call from someone wanting to give him a dog.
Is that right?
That's right. So we do help some people occasionally.
Yeah. The Castle of May Heats